In this lesson, you'll learn how to prepare a list of leads to insert into Salesforce and learn how to set up the data loader so that leads can hit the active lead assignment rule if you choose. Whether you're doing a Salesforce to Salesforce migration, importing data from another CRM, or loading a purchase list or conference attendees list, you'll likely be asked to insert leads at some point during your tenure as a Salesforce admin, so it's good to learn how to do this early on in your career. In Salesforce, leads can accommodate both a B2B and a B2C data model. So, business to business requires company name and last name fields, and upon conversion, creates an account and a related contact. B2C requires only the last name field, and upon conversion, creates a person account instead of the traditional account and related contact. Out of the box, Salesforce is a B2B tool, but when person accounts is enabled, such as in Financial Services Cloud and Nonprofit Cloud, Salesforce can also accommodate B2C leads. So, what do you do if you're inserting B2B leads and you don't have a company name and a last name for every single lead in your file? In this case, you'll have to massage the data to include something in those blank cells, like unknown company or unknown last name, so that you can prevent errors upon insert. If you want to use an active lead assignment rule during the insert, you'll need to enter the assignment rule ID into the data loader settings. The easiest way that I've found to get at these assignment rule IDs is by using the export in data loader. Once you have that ID that you've exported into a file from data loader, you'll go into the data loader settings and then you will add that assignment rule ID so it's ready for you when you insert those new leads. In preparation of a lead insert, let's say that we want to use the lead assignment rule that we have active in our org. So inside of Salesforce, if you were to search for lead assignment rules, then you'll see that we do have an active rule with a couple of rule entries. The easiest way, in my opinion, to get the ID for any of your assignment rules is to go into the data loader, do an export, select Show All Salesforce Objects, and start typing assignment. You'll see assignment rule. Now, it doesn't say lead because assignment rules could be used for leads or cases. So let's say we want to extract any rules in our assignment rule object. We'll pop them into a folder, hit Next, select all fields, and hit Finish. Now, inside of our folder, we'll open up our success file, and we can see in here that we have, under the object type for lead, we want to grab the ID. Now, sometimes you can have active and inactive rules. See how it says the very first field here says active? We would definitely want to choose, if we had a false one, an inactive rule, we want to choose the active rule. So I'm going to grab this ID and then go back into my data loader, into the settings, and scroll down until I see assignment rule ID for cases and leads import. I'm going to paste that in and hit OK. The next thing I'm ready to do is take a look at my lead workbook. So inside of my workbook is where I prepare all of my field mappings, and when I feel like I've got them good to go, that's when I'll then grab them and put them into a CSV so I can load them into the data loader. The first thing I want to do is make sure that if I'm loading B2B leads, that I do have a company filled in for all of my leads. So I can click on the drop down here and I can look for any checkbox that says blank. Then I would know I need to replace any blank cells with some text word like unknown or unknown company. I would repeat that over here under last name and make sure that I don't have any blank spaces under last name. The data loader, or really any lead entry or lead insert process, is not going to accept B2B leads where the company is blank or the last name is blank. Those are the first two things we need to do. The next thing we need to do is make sure that we have set a lead status inside of each lead row. Then we'll scroll over here to the right and call attention to our audit fields. So, assuming we've already set up our audit permissions, we can now access the created by ID and the created date and time, and we've established what ID belongs in the created by ID. We don't have to enter in the owner ID if we're going to be using the assignment rule. So I have this in here in the situation that we don't have an assignment rule active. The last field I want to call attention to here is the has email. So as we see it, the email opt-out field. It's kind of a strange field in Salesforce in that out of the box, it's one of the few fields that does not have field level security automatically at least read-write for admins. So in this org, I've already established the field level security, but just to show you the click-by-click process here, we'd go to our lead object, look for our email opt-out field, we'd select set field level security. We would make sure then that at least the system admin profile, which we're using, has privileges to edit that field, and make sure that that's saved before we try to go into our data loader. So if we don't do that step and we go into data loader, when we try to map our field values, we will not see a field for email opt-out. Then we'd have to go back and do this step and then refresh. So now that we have cleaned up our data and we have everything mapped to the Salesforce field based on what we know we want to map our data to, and then we create our CSV inside of our leads prepped, right? So we grabbed all that information, pasted it into a CSV file that we're ready now to insert. We go into data loader, click insert, choose the lead object. We are going to grab our lead prepped file, click next. We are going to edit our map. Now, like in other loads, I've created a header called lead status instead of using just status, which would auto map. Again, this is because if data loader sees a field called status, it will overwrite it with its own data loading status values. And I don't like that. I want to make sure that I maintain my historical status values in my output file. As I scroll down, I make sure that everything is mapped as per my expectation. I click OK and next, and then I make sure that the right folder is established so that I can put my success and error files into a place where I know where to find them. I click finish, and sometimes this will go a little bit more slowly if it sees, if it has a lot of rule entries and it's using that lead assignment rule. In this case, I have 99 successes and 1 errors. I can use this operation area here to look up those errors, but I prefer to go into my folder itself and take a look at my files. So here inside of my lead insert folder, I'm going to rename the success file to lead success, and I'm going to open up my error file and see what happened. All the way to the right is where the error is populated, and whenever you see this, it says use one of these records, it is identifying this lead as a duplicate. So what I can do from here is either inform the client that, hey, it looks like you already have this lead inside of Salesforce. Most likely it's looking at the email address. Or I can go back into Salesforce and I can turn off my duplicate rules and inform the client that I loaded all of the data exactly as it is without respect to identifying or looking for existing records that may be considered duplicates. Now that I have loaded my leads, the next thing that I want to do is open up my lead success file. I'm going to select that whole sheet, create a new tab in my workbook, and rename my workbook Lead Success. Typically too, if I have any errors, I will also paste any lead errors that I have into this so that when I'm going through the information with my client, I can very easily go from tab to tab and say, here's what we saw, here's all the successes, and then here's the ones that errored out or were flagged as duplicates. Now that I have my lead success file, I want to make sure that I spot check a handful of these records to ensure that the data mapped in the way that I expected it to. I'm going to click on one of these record IDs and then toggle over to Salesforce I'm going to go into my app. And then after force.com slash, I'm going to paste in this lead ID. You can tell it's a lead by the 00Q prefix. And then clicking on the details of the lead, I would check to make sure that each field in my file mapped in the way that I expected it to, and that the lead assignment rule assigned the lead according to the rule. Attached to this lesson is a lead workbook, which includes test leads that you can insert into a dev or a sandbox org, and you can test out what you learned today. Up next, we're going to load leads with converted lead information.